The world of Jujutsu Kaisen is rife with danger at every turn, and it doesn't help that their society's bullheaded traditionalism barely holds the status quo together. So much so that infighting, blood debts, filicide, and basically social Darwinism are barely held at bay. But what happens when something cataclysmic enters the picture? What happens when a certain event in Jujutsu sorcerer history proves to be so enormous in its implications that the entire status quo is shaken? That's exactly what we're here to talk about in this video. Fair warning to you fine viewers, heavy spoilers about Jujutsu Kaisen are ahead, so if you haven't gotten up to speed with both the manga and anime, we highly recommend you get to that first. Now let's dive into the full history of Gojo Satoru. The state of Jujutsu society before Gojo Satoru. For thousands of years, Jujutsu sorcerers have operated relatively in the shadows of Japanese society at large. As far as we can tell, they've been active as early as the Heian period in Japanese history, although we wouldn't be surprised if these special individuals existed as early as the Jomon period. For better or worse, the world of Jujutsu sorcerers operates under a feudal system. Clans and families who have been around for millennia more or less control how their society, from its laws right down to their system of education, works. Chief among these families are the Zenin, Kamo, and Gojo clans. Throughout the centuries, these clans have vied for power and influence within Jujutsu society. Ultimately, they've reached a certain equilibrium with one another that can be likened to how traditional government works. First, there's the Zenin clan, a large, at least by Jujutsu sorcerer standards, family who boasts the strongest able-bodied fighting men within their society. Thus, they're akin to the government's military branch. Their most prized possession isn't something material either, it's a rare inherited curse technique, a form of Jujutsu sorcery passed down from one generation to the next, called the 10 Shadows technique, which allows its users to command a variety of cursed spirits to aid them in battle. The Kamo clan, on the other hand, is considered the bastion of traditionalism in Jujutsu society. In fact, this is reflected in their family's inherited curse technique that involves bloodbending. Throughout history, the Kamo clan have held seats of power in Jujutsu society's legislative branch. Simply put, they're mostly the reason why Jujutsu society is so strict, even discriminatory in their views about how they should conduct themselves within Japanese society in general. And then there's the Gojo clan, which stands atop these three prominent Jujutsu families. Not much is known about their members, save that they have the most power and influence within this world's society of sorcerers, not unlike a government's executive branch. This power and influence mainly stems from the fact that the Gojo clan possesses two of the most powerful inherited curse techniques in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. First, there's Limitless, the Gojo family's inherited curse technique, which, as the name implies, allows whoever possesses it to gain complete control over space, down to its minutest level. Simply put, Limitless allows its user to divide matter infinitely, basically rendering them invulnerable. Add the fact that Limitless allows its user to manipulate space itself, creating repulsion and attraction at will, and you basically have a walking superweapon in the world of Jujutsu sorcerers. Then there's the inherited Gojo clan technique called the Six Eyes, which they use to manipulate and divide their cursed energy, the fuel that allows Jujutsu sorcerers to make use of any technique at will. In a nutshell, the Six Eyes allows its user to have a near infinite supply of fuel to use whatever curse technique they possess. Now, as we've mentioned, these families have fairly coexisted with one another for thousands of years, shaping Jujutsu society well into the late 20th century. That is, until one fateful day in 1989. The birth of Gojo Satoru. On December 7, 1989, the Jujutsu world was shaken when the Gojo family gave birth to a boy named Satoru. News quickly spread that after 400 years, someone from the Gojo family was born with both the Limitless and the Six Eyes. Can you guys imagine its implications? Well, Jujutsu society certainly does. Apart from being an extremely rare specimen, someone like Gojo Satoru is pretty much a super weapon on two legs that has an almost bottomless supply of power to draw from. Basically, he has the power to level a city, an entire country even, with next to no effort at all. News quickly spread of the child's birth. The higher-ups and clan heads, knowing that they're no match against someone of Satoru's caliber, begrudgingly bent the proverbial knee to the boy and, by extension, the Gojo clan. Like any society, of course, there's bound to be dregs and malcontents within it. News of the child prodigy born into the Gojo clan reached even the seedy underbelly of the Jujutsu world. To the less than savory members of Jujutsu society, Gojo Satoru is the ultimate cop that will foil whatever criminal endeavor they're doing. To the upstanding citizens, he's the anomaly that shifts the power balance between the three main clans guiding Jujutsu society. Suffice it to say that Gojo Satoru is one special boy, and by the time he was around 8 or 9 years old, the Jujutsu underworld had already placed a 100 million yen bounty on his head. Now if that doesn't just scream desperation at you, we don't know what does. Of course, the prospect of earning wads of cash piqued the interest of the Jujutsu underworld's many bounty hunters and hitmen. A lot of them tried to claim the bounty, but were ultimately dissuaded the moment they even tried to scope out Satoru and felt the tremendous amount of cursed energy coursing through the boy's entire being. In fact, one stern look from the boy was enough for these headhunters to tuck tail and run the opposite direction. That is, save for one particularly ruthless and fearsome hitman. Toji Zenin and Gojo Satoru's first encounter. A prelude of things to come. Remember when we told you about the Zenin clan and how that family is renowned for their martial prowess? Well, they also hold a reputation for being cold-blooded and Spartan-like in the way they run their household. Their one rule is that if you're born into the Zenin, you have to possess the ability to use cursed energy and techniques. If you don't, you're deemed categorically useless to the family and subsequently disowned. One of these disowned Zenin clan members is a man named Toji. He was born with what's called a heavenly restriction, a trade-off that prohibits him from utilizing cursed energy and techniques. In exchange, Toji was granted exceptional physical gifts that compensate for his lack of cursed energy manipulation. You can look at it this way. Instead of having the ability to summon monsters or use magic, Toji has super strength, super speed, enhanced physical senses, and a gift for wielding cursed tools, weapons embedded with cursed energy. His inability to use cursed energy also grants him a degree of invisibility when facing Jujutsu sorcerers, since they can't sense anything from him, making him the perfect assassin in their world. Well, almost perfect, because when Toji tried to scope out Satoru, he noticed the boy staring at him. This gave him pause, of course. Throughout his life, Satoru was the only one who was able to sense his presence. Ultimately, Toji decided to not pursue the 100 million yen bounty on the boy's head, thinking it's too much trouble. But this is just a preview of what's to come. Gojo Satoru's teen years. The intervening years had the Gojo clan grooming Satoru to become their family's eventual head, a title that he held by the time he was 17. Like most individuals with an aptitude for using cursed energy, he also had been attending Tokyo Metropolitan Cursed Technical College, aka Jujutsu High, at this point in his life. It's no surprise that Satoru became the school's top student, even reaching the status of special grade Jujutsu sorcerer, the highest rank for a Jujutsu sorcerer at such a young age. In fact, everyone refers to him as the strongest sorcerer of the modern era. Now, this is where Gege Akutami really shines, insofar as Gojo Satoru's characterization is concerned. Growing up in a wealthy and powerful sorcerer clan, and being its golden boy for that matter, didn't exactly turn Satoru into a white knight like, say, the Gokus and Narutos of the world. As a matter of fact, you could say that Satoru became one dubious and calculating character at times. He's the kind of guy who's well aware of his prodigious abilities and not afraid to show it. Yes, he's on the side of good, but he has a certain distaste for the weak. In other words, regular Japanese citizens and less gifted Jujutsu sorcerers, thinking that they're beneath him. To Gojo Satoru, he exists to protect the weak, not out of the goodness of his heart, but because they're too powerless and pathetic to defend themselves. That's not to mention, too, that this provides him an opportunity to lord over his powers, and as fans, we simply love it. Anyway, his time at Jujutsu High was divided between his studies and as an active Jujutsu sorcerer undertaking missions. He mostly hung out with his two best friends, Shoko Iiri and Suguru Geto. Shoko is a girl who, for all intents and purposes, is your typical Jujutsu sorcerer. However, she's also one of the rare people in their world who has mastery over reverse cursed energy and manipulation, which allows her to heal almost any injury inflicted on others. It's a rare talent that even Satoru admits he couldn't comprehend in spite of his gifts. Then there's Suguru Geto. Like Satoru, he's a special grade ranked Jujutsu sorcerer with the innate technique that allows him to absorb cursed spirits, monsters born from people's negative emotions, and use them according to his will. Jujutsu Society's higher-ups usually send the Gojo and Geto tandem for dangerous missions, which have yielded amazing results. So much so that the two teenagers have saved their mentors at Jujutsu High time and time again from sticky situations. The split between Gojo and Geto. Then came a day when Gojo and Geto were tasked with a mission to escort a young girl named Riko Amanai safely to Master Tengen, an immortal Jujutsu sorcerer who uses vessels to maintain his consciousness. Without this vessel, Tengen will be one with the universe and be unable to protect Jujutsu Society with his innate barrier techniques. You see, Riko is Master Tengen's latest vessel, and the immortal sorcerer needs to transfer their consciousness into her. The problem is, there are a couple of parties trying to get in the way of this. First, there's an organization simply known as Q, whose main goal is to disrupt Jujutsu Society by letting Master Tengen become a universal being. Then there's the Time Vessel Association, a crazy religious cult that worships Master Tengen but believes that merging the immortal sorcerer with a vessel would make Tengen impure. Regardless of their motives, both Q and the TVA have one objective: stop Master Tengen from merging with Riko Amanai. Gojo and Geto successfully locate Riko and her caretaker Misato. The two special-grade sorcerers also easily fend off salvos from Q, who have gone the in-house route and sent their own agents to try and kill Riko. Unbeknownst to either Gojo or Geto though, the TVA has hired a particularly ruthless and fearsome hitman to go after Riko, a cold-blooded killer who has a reputation for specializing in killing Jujutsu sorcerers. That man is none other than Toji, who has since changed his last name to Fushiguro instead of Zenin. Gojo and Geto serve as bodyguards to Riko and Misato over the days leading up to her eventual merger with Master Tengen. They grow close to one another, going on a short vacation to Okinawa along the way. When the day of the merger comes and the group returns to Tokyo, just as they were about to approach Master Tengen's temple, Toji surprises them by stabbing Gojo right in the chest. He tells Geto to take Riko to Master Tengen right away, and an epic fight between the most powerful sorcerer of the modern day and the world's greatest sorcerer-killer ensue. Ultimately though, Gojo, for all his talents, loses the battle, with Toji inflicting seemingly fatal wounds on him in the process. Inside Tengen's chambers, Riko realizes she doesn't want to merge with Tengen after all. Geto offers her his hand to take her away from the temple, but just as she was about to reach for it, a bullet pierces through Riko's temple and ends her right then and there. Toji shot her from the shadows, declaring that his job's done afterwards. Blinded by rage, Geto rushes Toji and they fight. In the end though, the sorcerer killer is just too much to handle, and he incapacitates Geto. Thinking that his latest job's all over now, Toji makes his way out of the temple. Outside, he's shocked to find that Gojo is walking towards him, his wounds from their earlier encounter now gone. Satoru reveals that he unlocked the full potential of Limitless and the Six Eyes just as he was dying, allowing him to finally understand and use the reverse curse technique to instantly heal his injuries. There's a crazed look on Satoru's face as he speaks and floats mid-air. Toji braces himself for another fight, but it's cut short when Satoru releases a new power that he just discovered that he calls Hollow Technique Purple. This makes easy work of the sorcerer killer. In the aftermath, Gojo and Geto retrieve Riko's body from the TVA. They ultimately failed their mission. Even worse, their resolve about protecting humanity has been broken. Gojo suggests that they kill each and every one of the TVA members, but Geto basically turns him away from the thought and tells his friend that they're going to basically get what's coming to them. Little did Satoru know that this incident left a far worse, lasting impact on Geto, because just a year later, Geto breaks bad and ends up massacring an entire rural village whose residents were trying to kill a couple of young sorcerer girls. Then he took control of the TVA and turned it into his own cult, whose members he uses to collect cursed spirits using his innate technique. At this point, Geto has made it his mission to eradicate humanity, as he believes they're the source of all cursed spirits. Without them, there won't be any more victims like Riko anymore. Gojo eventually confronts Geto about this, but he's ultimately unable to execute his best friend. Gojo lets Geto free. They drift apart and life moves on. Gojo Satoru, Mentor. Several years pass. It's 2017 and Gojo has long graduated from Jujutsu High. He now works as a teacher at the school, all the while being an active Jujutsu sorcerer going on missions. In the intervening years, he also took a boy named Megumi Fushiguro, Toji's son, and a rare Zenin who possesses the 10 Shadows technique under his tutelage. Throughout the years, his reputation and raw power have granted him privileges that allow him to outright dismiss or go against the will of Jujutsu Society's higher-ups. This was no less in full display when he staved off the marked execution of a boy named Yuta Okotsu, a teenage boy that the higher-ups deemed too dangerous to be alive. In return for his stay of execution, Gojo tells Yuta to enroll at Jujutsu High and become a Jujutsu sorcerer himself. Yuta agrees and becomes a student. It eventually came to their attention that Geto is on the hunt for Yuta. You see, unbeknownst even to himself, Yuta is a descendant of another powerful Jujutsu sorcerer named Sugawara no Michizane. Satoru even notes how Yuta has twice the power that he possesses, which manifests through a cursed spirit named Rika, whom he controls, the Queen of Curses. Plus, Gojo eventually reveals to the boy that they're distant relatives who both descended from Sugawara no Michizane, which probably explains why they're both extremely powerful. Remember when we told you about Geto's innate technique? How he can absorb cursed spirits and use them as his own? Well, given Rika's immense power that can surpass even Satoru's, Geto wants to absorb Rika to fulfill his plan of destroying humanity. To do this, he releases an army of cursed spirits he's collected over the years in Kyoto and Shinjuku in an attack that would be known as the Night Parade of 100 Demons. In the midst of this, Satoru heads to Shinjuku to eradicate the cursed spirits. Meanwhile, Geto was just using this as a diversion to get Yuta and Rika alone. Ultimately though, Yuta defeats Geto and even takes one of his arms in the process. Geto tries to escape, but Satoru catches up to him. They have one last heart-to-heart conversation before Satoru does what he was unable to do all those years ago: execute his best friend. A year later in 2018, Gojo's student and ward Megumi Fushiguro is on a mission to retrieve a cursed artifact at a school. There he meets a boy named Yuji Itadori. Megumi's mission goes awry and ultimately ends with Yuji accidentally eating the artifact, the preserved finger of Sukuna, an immortal and the most powerful Jujutsu sorcerer in history, also known as the King of Curses. In doing so, Sukuna is able to possess Yuji's body, but the boy is resilient and able to maintain a degree of control over the evil sorcerer. Satoru arrives at the scene to check on his boy Megumi and take Yuji in. He even tests Yuji by allowing Sukuna to take control of the boy's body, and they get into a short hand-to-hand fight. As with Yuta, the higher-ups of Jujutsu Society order Yuji's execution, but Gojo, using his influence and power, overturns this decision and decides to enroll the boy in Jujutsu High and train to become a sorcerer. In addition to that, Gojo tells Yuji that his execution is indefinitely delayed until he eats all of Sukuna's fingers so they can kill the King of Curses in one fell swoop. Satoru also meets Nobara Kugisaki, a transfer student who would become Yuji and Megumi's other partner. Shortly after, he sends Yuji and Kugisaki on a mission to test their skills, which they pass. Gojo goes on a short trip out of town sometime later and is enraged to find out that the higher-ups went behind his back by sending Megumi and Yuji to a mission well outside their ranks. The mission ends with Yuji dead, and Satoru barely restrains himself from killing each and every one of Jujutsu Society's higher-ups. Thanks to Sukuna's power though, Yuji returns to life. Satoru decides to keep this a secret from everyone else for the time being and proceeds to train the boy with the help of his friend Nanami Kento, a grade 1 Jujutsu sorcerer working in the private sector. One night, Satoru meets a powerful cursed spirit named Jogo while on the way to a meeting. They fight and Gojo shows just how OP he is by making quick work of Jogo. Eventually, Satoru reveals to the rest of Jujutsu High that Yuji is still alive. This happens during a goodwill event between their Tokyo and Kyoto campuses. The event commences, and Gojo and the rest of the other faculty members watch their students compete. However, it's cut short when Jogo's associates, cursed spirits Hanami and Mahito, as well as a human cursed spirit hybrid named Juzo, attack the students. Gojo, to no one's surprise, easily defeats Juzo and Hanami when he gets to the scene. In the aftermath, Gojo is left wondering how Jogo and his gang are able to locate them. He thinks there's a spy within Jujutsu High's Kyoto campus and wonders what the cursed spirit's motives really are. Satoru becomes trapped. It's October 31, 2018. Jogo and the rest of his comrades terrorize Shibuya. They erect a barrier within the area and hold thousands of people hostage. They have one demand: for Gojo Satoru to enter Shibuya alone. Now, Gojo knows he can easily take these dastardly monsters down, so he enters the barrier and proceeds to enter Shibuya Station, where Jogo and his crew are holed up. As expected, they challenge him to a fight, which Satoru obliges. Little did he know that the cursed spirits aren't planning on beating him in a full-on fisticuff. They're just biding their time to use the cursed object called the Prison Realm to trap Gojo inside it so that he can't interfere with their plans. They succeed in doing this, and just as Gojo is about to be trapped within the prison realm, he's shocked to discover that Geto is the mastermind behind all of this. He was sure he had killed him a year ago, so why is he here? Well, that's because unbeknownst to Satoru, another immortal Jujutsu sorcerer named Kenjaku has taken over Geto's corpse. Ultimately, Gojo was trapped within the prison realm for about 18 days. Through the efforts of Yuji Itadori and the other Jujutsu sorcerers, they were able to unlock the prison realm and set Satoru free. Satoru challenges Sukuna. What does a pissed-off, super-powerful Jujutsu sorcerer do the moment he gets free? Why, kick some evil ass, of course. That's what Satoru did when he nearly killed Kenjaku after his release from the prison realm. Had Sukuna, now possessing Megumi Fushiguro's body, not intervened, Kenjaku would have definitely been a goner. Sukuna then challenges Satoru to a duel. Gojo, being the mischief maker he is, requests they postpone their duel to December 24. Surprisingly, the usually cantankerous Sukuna agrees. And right then and there, the most decisive battle in the world of Jujutsu sorcerers was all set. Now, before we proceed, we have to warn you one final time, there are heavy spoilers ahead. But if you're ready, let's dive right in. Satoru vs. Sukuna, the Jujutsu battles to end all Jujutsu battles. It's December 24, 2018. Gojo Satoru has made all the necessary preparations for the battle ahead of him. His friends and students give him their blessings and bid him good luck as he heads to war. The battleground? Shinjuku. In one corner, we have the strongest sorcerer of the modern era, Gojo Satoru. In the other corner, the king of curses, Sukuna. The two meet face to face in broad daylight and get right down to business. Gojo and Sukuna throw down, wrecking buildings and wreaking havoc all over Shinjuku as they use their curse techniques against each other. It doesn't take long for both of them to open their respective domain expansions, a technique that guarantees a sure hit for whoever wins. Sukuna gets the upper hand and barrages Gojo with slashes, which makes him focus his energy into healing himself with his reverse curse technique. Eventually, Satoru finds an opening and uses his hollow technique Red, which sends the King of Curses flying. He then takes the opportunity to open up another domain expansion just as Sukuna recovers. The two go at it hand to hand. All the while, Sukuna tries to find an opening to destroy Satoru's domain yet again. But Gojo's a quick study. He unleashes a technique called Falling Blossom Emotion, which cancels other cursed techniques. It becomes a battle between domains as the two clash and try to impose their respective techniques on each other. Ultimately, it's a stalemate, and both Satoru and Sukuna's domain expansions falter. The combatants recompose themselves, and in one short moment, Satoru wonders why Sukuna hasn't utilized Megumi's 10 Shadows technique yet. They get back to it, reopening their domain expansions until ultimately, Satoru gets the upper hand when he edges out Sukuna's expansion by 0.01 seconds. Gojo aims for Sukuna's heart, lungs, and liver to fully incapacitate him without killing his vessel Megumi. But Sukuna manages to dodge Satoru's attack by finally using the 10 Shadows technique, summoning Mahoraga, a Shikigami with the power to adapt to any technique to nullify it and destroy its user. Sukuna reveals that Mahoraga has already adapted to Satoru's domain. Still, he can't end Satoru just yet, as the two sorcerers reach a standstill, both having nearly exhausted their cursed energy reserves. At this point, Satoru musters his remaining energies and unleashes Hollow Technique Blue to get the upper hand in tandem with some good old-fashioned hand-to-hand combat. He and Sukuna come to blows, with the King of Curses defending himself using his own bursts of domain expansion. Gojo figures out that Mahoraga needs time to adapt to his techniques and deduces that he'll finish Sukuna before that happens. While in close combat, he manages to release another Hollow Technique Red and makes it circle around them, hitting Sukuna in the back before knocking the King of Curses out. Satoru then turns his attention to Mahoraga and successfully stuns the Shikigami. He charges up for another Hollow Technique Red aimed at Sukuna, but his opponent recovers and summons another couple of Shikigami to dodge the attack and help him battle Gojo. Mahoraga finds an opening and chops Gojo's arm off before Sukuna wails on him. Satoru's not down for the count yet though. He unleashes another Hollow Technique Blue and aims it at the sky, effectively destroying Agito. Satoru then finds a small opening to knock Sukuna and Mahoraga off and regrow his lost arm using Reverse Curse Technique. Then he charges up another Hollow Technique Red at full power. Instead of aiming it at his opponents though, he shoots it up and is revealed that he's aimed it at the lingering Hollow Technique Blue hovering above them, the one he used to kill Agito. This fusion results in Satoru's most powerful technique, the same one he used to kill Toji years ago, Hollow Technique Purple. He unleashes it and it tears Shinjuku apart in a gigantic explosion. Sukuna's caught in the blast and is severely injured. Some distance away, Jujutsu High students and faculty watch and rejoice thinking that Gojo Satoru has prevailed. Curiously enough, Satoru finds himself inside a room where Geto and all his other friends who have since passed away are hanging out. They talk and banter, and Satoru is rather miffed that Sukuna didn't even give 100% during their fight. Back in the real world, Sukuna explains that Mahoraga was finally able to adapt to Satoru's Limitless while they battled. To do this, Mahoraga created a model, a parameter that allowed the Shikigami to target a makeshift world that it can cleave to bypass Satoru's Limitless. Anything and everything inside this makeshift world will get cut in half. And guess who Mahoraga placed inside this model? In the end, it's revealed that Sukuna is telling all of this to Gojo Satoru's lifeless body that's just been cut in half. And with that, the greatest sorcerer of the modern era has met his demise. What do you think will happen to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen now that Gojo Satoru is gone? How do you feel that Gege Akutami killed off this fan-favorite character? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you want more anime and manga content, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. See you next time.